All right, I'm going to be making the Holly Sweatshirt Dress by Samantha Marie Designs. And you can make this in youth or adult. Today I'll be making the adult dress. And so let's go over some pattern pieces. You're going to need 2 skirt pieces. Today I'm using a flannel. You can use a flannel, or you can use a stretch fabric or a non-stretch fabric for the skirt. For the bodice, you need to use a stretch fabric. So I'm using a rib knit. So we've got a neckband. I've got my front bodice. Got my, should have my back bodice here somewhere. Here's my back bodice. I've got 2 sleeve cuffs. I'm doing the cuff sleeve. You can do cuffed or hemmed. I've got 2 pieces for the waistband of the sweatshirt. I've got 2 sleeves. And this is the other waistband piece. All right, that's all the pieces. So the first step that I like to do is I like to always prep for my hem at the beginning. And so we're gonna do a 1/2 inch memory press on the bottom of the skirt, just to make it easier to hem at the end. All right, so I went ahead and did a memory press to get ready for the hem, and because I'm doing a woven fabric, I pressed a 1/2 inch and then another 1/2 inch. The pattern only calls for a 1/2 inch hem, but I also know that I want to make it a little bit shorter because I am 5'4" and the pattern is made for 5'5". So I did a 1/2 inch and then a second 1/2 inch for the press on the skirt. The next step is we're going to grab the front and back bodice pieces, and we're going to pin those together at the shoulders. So we're going to put them right sides together. And go ahead and pin them together at the shoulders. Grab mine. Okay, we're going to sew those together at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. The whole pattern has a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And the next step is actually the neckband. So I already went ahead and pressed this wrong sides together. And I'm going to unfold that and bring it together, right sides together, the short ends together. And so while I'm at my serger, I'm going to go ahead and sew that together at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to do the neckband and the shoulders 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, so I've sewn the shoulders and the neckband together. So next I'm going to take my neckband and I'm going to fold it in half with the wrong sides together, and I'm going to pin 1/4 points. The pattern says to just do center front and center back, but I'm more comfortable doing 1/4 points for an adult pattern. For kids, I'm okay doing just midpoints, but I like to do 1/4 points on adult patterns. So go ahead and pin 1/4 points. And then I'm gonna turn my shirt right side out, and I'm gonna pin the 1/4 points on that as well. And we're gonna go ahead and take the neckband and we're gonna put them right sides together. So taking the part with the seam, going to the center back, pinning those together and making sure that it doesn't twist, and just pin all of the quarter points together. Okay, and now I'm going to take this to my serger and I'm going to stretch the neckband to fit as I sew, and I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance to attach the neckband. All right, so I went ahead and attached the neckband, and next we're going to attach the sleeves. So we're gonna take the sleeves and we're gonna find the midpoint. Do a little snip to mark the center, and then we're gonna lay the shirt right side up and the sleeve right side down, so right sides are together, and we're gonna pin it in the middle. And then we're gonna, I like to pin each side and then pin along the way. And then we're gonna attach each sleeve at using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, now that the sleeves are attached, we're going to close up the sides. So we're going to put our sweater or sweatshirt right sides together, and we're going to pin from the sleeve down to the hem. Make sure you line up your seam here at the end of the sleeve, and then all the way down to the bottom of the sweater. We're gonna do this for both sides, and then we're gonna sew this together, starting from the sleeve, going all the way down to the hem at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so now our top is sewn together, and the next step is to attach the sleeve cuffs. So grab your sleeve cuffs, and the pattern says to put them short sides together, but I want my ribs to be going up and down in the end, so I need to actually do long sides together. There's a 1/2 inch difference between the short side and the long side, so I'm going to go ahead and cut off a 1/2 inch of my cuff. Okay, so I went ahead and cut a 1/2 inch off the long end of my cuff, so now I have a square cuff. And I'm going to pin, I want my rib to be going this way in the end, so I'm going to pin this together, and it's right sides together. And then I'm going to take both of these cuffs to my serger and I'm going to sew them together at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So now I'm going to take the cuff and I'm going to turn it right side out, folding it in half, and I'm going to pin the 2 seams together, and then I'm going to pin the midpoint. So pinning that part of the cuff together, keeping it folded in half. Gonna find the midpoint. And I'm gonna do that for both cuffs. Now I'm gonna grab my top and I'm gonna find the midpoint of the sleeve. So you have the seam on one side, so you need to find the midpoint on the other side of the sleeve. Line that up. Do that for both sleeves. And then we're gonna put our cuffs right sides together. So if your shirt is inside out, you would put the cuff inside, but if your shirt is right side out, you're going to put the cuff on the outside. So line up the 2 seams, the sleeve seam and the cuff seam, pin those together, and then pin the midpoint on the other side of the sleeve. I'm going to do that for both sleeves, and then I'm going to sew that together at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So the sleeve cuffs have been attached. The next step is the waistband. So we're going to take both waistband pieces and you're going to fold them right sides together with the long edge meeting up, but we're going to sew along the short edge. So you're going to pin these short edges with the long side together. Do that for both waistband pieces, and then you're going to sew those together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once the waistband is sewn together on those short edges, you're going to turn it right side out, and we're going to pin this to our shirt, our bottom of our shirt. So take the bottom of the shirt, and you're going to put the raw edges together, making sure you line up these side seams. You're going to pin this all the way across, and then you're going to repeat for the other waistband. And the pattern actually says to wait to sew this on until you add the skirt, but I'm going to go ahead and baste this together. It's a lot of layers. So I'm going to baste this at a 1/4 inch seam allowance once I get it all pinned together. Once you've basted your waistband to the shirt, we're going to set that to the side. We're going to grab our skirt pieces and we're going to attach the sides together. So you're going to lay them right sides together and you're going to pin along both side seams, making sure you unfold that hem if you pre-pressed the hem. And we're going to sew the sides of the skirt together at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, so I've got the side seams of the skirt sewn together, and because this is a woven fabric, I did a regular stitch on my sewing machine at a 1/4 inch, and then I serged the edge. Next, we need to gather the skirt. So this pattern says to gather it however you feel comfortable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a basting stitch on the skirt front and the skirt back, and I'm going to do it at a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch. And I'll remove those basting stitches afterwards. But so I'm going to do a 1/2 inch and a 1/4 inch basting stitch on both sides of the skirts, and I'm going to keep the tails long on both ends so that I can gather the front and the back of the skirt separately. Okay, so I've sewn those basting stitches. So the first thing I like to do is find the mid points for the front and the back of the skirt. So I'm going to line up the side seams, find the midpoint, and I'm just going to put a clip there for the front and the back. And then you want your skirt so that the right side is facing in, so it's inside out, and you're gonna put the bodice inside, but I'm also gonna find the center points of the front and back of the bodice as well. So your shirt, the right side of your shirt and the right side of your skirt are going to be together, and you're going to put the shirt inside the skirt so we can line up these raw edges. And then I like to gather one side at a time. So I'm going to find my 2 bobbin threads for the one side of the skirt, and I'm going to go ahead and pull those to gather my skirt to fit the size of my shirt. So the skirt and the bodice will be the same size. So I gathered a little bit too much, so I'm going to go ahead and pull some out. Not worried about spreading out the gathers just yet. I'm just worried about kind of getting them to be the same size. And then once they're the same size, I'm going to pin the side together, and then I will spread out the gathers so that they're evenly dispersed. Once I think it looks pretty good, I will then go ahead and pin my bodice and my shirt together. So you should have your shirt, the waistband of your shirt, and then the skirt. So the waistband of the shirt is in the middle of the sandwich, is what the pattern says. Okay, so it looks like that. And then I'm going to repeat that for this half of the skirt, and then I'll do the other 2 pieces. So it's kind of like I'm doing it in quarters. Okay, so now I'm going to take this and I'm going to sew this together at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, so now my skirt and my shirt are fully attached, and I went ahead and removed my basting stitches since we used a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Still a little bit there to remove. Since we used a 1/4 inch seam allowance and I did base at a 1/2 inch. So next, you want to press this waistband down. All right, so I went ahead and pressed the sweatshirt band down, and now I'm going to top stitch it to the upper bodice. So the seam allowance is going to be pushed up towards the shirt, and I'm going to top stitch along where the waistband and the shirt meet, but I'm gonna do it on the shirt. Okay, so I forgot to turn the camera on, but I went ahead and top stitched the waistband to the shirt top, and the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try it on real quick and make sure my hem is good that I pre-pressed, and then I'm just gonna sew the hem. All right, and as soon as you're done with your hem, your Adult Holly sweatshirt dress is all finished. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.